We do have a Twilight Council, so wouldn't surprise me if we did indeed see that blink. And actually, blink is pretty decent on Orbital Shipyard, so I think we are, we are correct in expecting blink here from PiLiPiLi.
Blink is decent, yet as a Terran playing on this map, if I have one missile turret just slightly not placed properly, I lose my entire natural line. So it's one of those things where it is very much stylistic from PiLiPiLi, but we'll see if he goes down that route. Blink is strong, as you mentioned, and especially with Semper being a little bit greedy, it could also be even stronger. Stalker out on the map, Adept moving out with the Mama Core, hopefully trying to do a multi-pronged attack into the main as the Adept pushes the natural, but we already have a nice position for the one Marine. Adept shouldn't commit to that, we'll pull out, and I think this really much is essentially saying, you know what, Semper's going to be a little greedy feller, and I don't know if that's the wisest thing, and he's not even getting a quick tech lab, which I'd be worried about. However, he does have a while to get that Cyclone out, which is generally what we do see to defend drops of any sort.
Yeah, and we do have the tech lab going out on the factory. It probably will be a quicker Cyclone. PiLiPiLi looking into the main of Semper, seeing what's going on, sees that factory, sees that starport.
Well, Malcor's got to be very careful. There's actually 4 Marines here, but with the canyon, she'll barely be able to get away, or actually not the cannon, the wall, whatever you want to call that.
Yeah, the little ledge. She does manage to just get away really quick. Losing that mothership core right before, a blink all in would be pretty devastating for Pili. But blink is being researched, about 1/3 of the way done.
I wonder if this is an all-in or not. Obviously, we'll see if he throws down that 3rd Nexus, but he could potentially get enough damage in with his blink all-ins that he doesn't even need to worry about that all-in, because as Protoss, as I was saying, or pardon me, as Terran, you are trying to defend those drops, so you may not just have the big, blunt Bioforce. You're going to have some Cyclones, some Liberators out, and it comes a little bit more micro-intensive where the Blink Stalkers can just bypass them. However, I do like the Liberator opening easily, should be able to get some damage done. Cyclone doesn't quite get the Adept. Actually, I think it gets the Adept. The Marine gets the Adept in the bunker, and for now, though, Semper is really cooped up at his main base. He thinks there's an attack coming because that's how all these games go on.
Yeah, Semper actually did scout that Twilight Council. He had an SCV running around the main of PiLiPiLi. So he did know that, there's a Twilight Council, and, Semper probably realizes this is PiLiPiLi. This could very well be a blink all-in coming out soon. So I think we'll probably start to see some real defense going up now for Semper, and PiLiPiLi is getting a 3rd behind this. So not completely an all-in.
That bunker of Semper more so looking like now just him being careful while PiLiPiLi, there's the gates being added on. PiLiPiLi takes a 3rd Nexus after scouting Semper and saying, okay, you are really preparing to defend your main and natural from drops. We do have an Overlord, or pardon me, the Liberator on the left-hand side moving into the natural base. PiLiPiLi's blink is done though, and he should be able to deal with it. There's the Observer, spots the Liberator, and it should not do that much damage. Stalkers are repositioning, and PiLiPiLi's almost mind-gamed his opponent out, and even though you're saying, oh, beautiful blink forward, he's gonna be able to focus it down, but even though you're saying he scouted that Twilight Council, if we're gonna be honest about the metagame, a lot of the time, you go Robo, Twilight, or you maybe do a Oracle opening, and then you still get Twilight.
Yeah, Twilight Council is very common in PvT, so I guess I wouldn't raise any red flags necessarily. We do have that picked up siege tank though. Wondering if we're going to see a little bit of slight aggression here for Semper, if he's just maybe repositioning his units.
I mean, I don't mean to hype it up too much, but definitely any sort of Adept drop just destroys Terran at the moment. At the highest level, you can defend, but it still is a little bit tough, and so you're all always wary about it. Semper is getting ready to defend it. Another Observer section come in. Feardragon putting down that Dark Shrine off the back. Pardon me, not Feardragon. What am I talking about? PiLiPiLi. Look at the wrong name on the UI. PiLiPiLi throwing down the DT Shrine. Bunker is taken out, and that's originally what I was saying. He wants to be a little bit greedy, but he's not allowed to. The bunker is taken out relatively quickly. There's no bunker to fall back onto, but this has forced out a remarkable amount of siege tanks, which is becoming a little bit more meta. But the quick 3rd of PiLiPiLi, he may just be able to convince Semper into a very ultra defensive situation where he just DT shrines him in the end.
Yeah, PiLiPiLi realizes that he's a little bit ahead now as far as economy goes. He has gotten +1 armor and attack, and doing some nice work here with these Stalkers too, being annoying, picking off what he can, just trying to, continue his advantage at the moment. That Dark Shrine is getting close to completion. He could do a lot of damage with that. I don't think there's one missile turret in the NAT, but that's about it here for Semper. So DTs, especially DT drop, it could really hurt.
There's two in the natural missile turrets you just saw were the missile turrets to deny the Adept. You even have the Cyclone ready to do that. But as you're saying, it will hurt him incredibly hard. We have 3 orbital commands, though, so maybe got a little bit of those scans to do something. However, here's a Warp Prism moving out, possibly for those Adepts, pardon me, DT Shrines. More gates being added on, and you know what? For Protoss Legacy of the Void, it is gates galore. You can do just about anything you want. And PiLiPiLi, by the way, even though, yes, we had mules, or even though Semper has mules, he was still about 15 workers ahead the majority of the game in a lot of these situations, just because Semper was so afraid of a draw.
Yeah, and the sensor towers kind of show that they're everywhere. They're making sure that nothing really comes as a surprise. It looks like that Warp Prism might just be able to skirt on the edge of the other one, though, leading into the main. Might actually get some work done.
DT spots this move out, and this is about 8 minutes, 30-second move out by Semper. Right as 1-1 finishes, he's going to have combat shields and everything ready. I love the siege tanks and medevacs, and it's one of those styles where sometimes Protoss can just wipe it out with Phoenixes, but we'll have to see. Warp Prism moving in. Cyclone and Missile Turret are just going to completely shut it down. DT may be able to kill the Cyclone, though, and actually it picks off a Cyclone, forcing the entire army of Semper to pull back, and this is terrible. He was going for the 8-minute, 30-second move out. A couple of Marines moving in essentially to a meat grinder have been taken out by the DTs, and they're going to get a remarkable amount of damage done, at least pulling back Semper for another 30 seconds, allowing the 4th base of PiLiPiLi to go up undeterred.
Yeah, and PiLiPiLi, he's gained a couple things from that. He has gained the knowledge that Semper was trying to move out. At the same time, he really prevented Semper from moving out. He had to go back home to deal with those DTs, and just as you said, it's given PiLiPiLi even more time to get a bigger army out.
Semper is posturing out on the map, trying to get some damage done, looking for the army if he can beat it in the middle. But for PiLiPiLi, he's just got such a large army. Storm is going to be done in about 30-odd seconds. I'm sure he's going to be chrono boosting that with his main army. Looks like he's going to be pressing out just a little bit now. I'd be afraid for PiLiPiLi to push out too far, yet on the other side of that, with the Adepts, with the Immortals, it's just such a strong army that Semper doesn't even try to engage it. And it's one of those things where now, in the PvT meta, as Terran, you have to have that mech biofusion or you just don't have enough damage. You need the siege tank output, but there's a huge blink forward focusing down the siege tanks. Immortals in the back are also going to get that damage, and no storms quite yet. The High Templars I think the High Templars were killed earlier on, and surprisingly enough, just barely Semper is coming out ahead of this. The Immortals got to be really careful. That is a huge gas investment to be killed. Now he's going to be pushed back, but what does PiLiPiLi have to fall back on? 3 almost full High Templars.
And now Semper, he's smelling blood in the water. He's making sure to go further. We do have some more Adepts, though, coming out. More Immortals. We've got Archons as well. I still think Pili could probably hold this, but, the siege tanks are well placed. They are far back. They're a little bit harder for Pili to reach. So meanwhile, Semper is just getting extra shots on probes.
4th Nexus has been being pushed back, as you said. There's not that much mining, and especially with not that many Blinkstalkers, it's going to be hard to get right on top of those siege tanks. I hate to say it, but in that first engagement, PiLiPiLi, you didn't have enough Adepts. No resonating. I'm so sorry to say that, but for now, it is 2-2 Protoss versus the 1-1 Bio, and they're going to be able to leapfrog back a little while. It's going to be rough for the Terran player now, even though, beautiful Storm right on top of the Bio. Even though he won the first engagement, it's so hard to win the second engagement after you've just lost the majority of your Bio force. You almost need to retreat back, but you have to get damage done. Semper is now completely retreating back home. However, he was able to secure that 4th CC off the back of this, and both players' economies are relatively even. I really worry for Semper with PiLiPiLi. His reinforcement, it may not be quicker, but it's just so much more powerful.
Yeah, PiLiPiLi, he's got a very, solid looking army. And this time, instead of the first engagement, he does have Storm. So that is going to be a huge factor here.
It will be an incredibly huge factor, and you saw even that second engagement, he was able to kill a decent amount, and he would have been able to kill even more Bio. He did have 3 fully charged High Templars, however, he made 1 Archon with them. Looks like PiLiPiLi's going to try to deny that 4th base in the left-hand side, and Marine is ready to see it, as you can see. 3-3's on the way, 2-2 just finished for Semper, so he will have at least an even upgrade lead in a lot of these engagements, and there's a planetary fortress here. It's a hard decision for PiLiPiLi, but I almost feel like he should just contain Semper and take a 5th base off the back of this. with those sensor towers, it's going to be really hard to actually push into Semper.
Yeah, PiLiPiLi, he'll probably want to macro up, and as you said, just do what he can, maybe take a few shots at mining, but with these towers, things are going to get a little difficult. But we've got more ghosts now coming out for Semper. Ghosts can really hurt this army if Pili is not prepared for them.
They can, but PiLiPiLi is moving right on top of the army. There's only 2 ghosts. EMPs could be good. Adepts don't commit. I almost would have liked the Adepts to commit. I don't think it would have been that bad with a couple of Linkstalkers moving forward. But PiLiPiLi, he's prepping for the main attack. At the same time, at the top left, Semper is taking a base. He's trying to get his economy up, and I'm not sure if it's really going to work there. It is right there. PiLiPiLi, here he is moving in. The siege tanks barely getting down in time. And honestly, I think it's just wise. Yeah, PiLiPiLi goes all in for that. And then blinks off the back of this, and a couple storms, even though he'll do friendly fire damage, could be potentially devastating. And here he goes.
Some good storms landed there. More storms there on the tanks. Immortals, though, they are pretty low after that EMP. They could get picked off pretty fast here, and they do start to fall very quick. The bio moves forwards, takes out the rest of the army. And Semper up in army supply now, 81 to 26.
Now, the hard part about this for Semper moving out is, even though, as you saw in the very first engagement, he took the battle, lost the second, now he's taken the third. It's so hard to just kill when you've already had a lot of damage taken on your Marines going up against Adepts. However, I'm not sure if PiLiPiLi can reinforce as much as he'd like. Currently, army supply, it is 93 of our Terran Semper to the 42 of the Protoss, and PiLiPiLi is not going to have an easy time dealing with these siege tanks. Doesn't even manage to get one. His 5th base is going to go down. It's a nice storm, but PiLiPiLi doesn't have enough AoE, even with these Adepts kind of mock AoE, to deal with this army. It looks like Semper, neither army wants to engage directly, but there's no storm left, and Semper's moving in.
Yeah, Semper, he's taking out that 5th base. That's a huge blow now to PiLiPiLi. And Semper himself also has a 5th, so Semper now looking in better shape than Pili. However, Pili can still make this work, especially with some really nice blinks and storms. It's still possible, but Semper is really getting a lead now.
Semper is also starting to get that dream composition. Oh, picks up an Immortal too. That's really huge. And now the Stalker's liberated right on top of them. They don't even need to be liberated. GG, Semper takes game 1. And I'll say I'm honestly a little bit surprised about Semper taking that.
Yeah, that was really impressive. And I'm wondering if maybe that fight at the 3rd that PiLiPiLi took was maybe not the wisest. And Semper, though, in that fight, he actually landed some pretty good EMPs at the same time. So both players, had, I don't know how to explain this, Pili may have made a mistake running up that ramp the way he did. But at the same time, Semper also had some really good EMPs. It's hard to say sometimes.
It was incredibly even in the end when the armies went up against each other. And Semper, normally you don't see that heavy of siege tank because everyone's like, Immortals kill it. But with the siege tanks being a little bit further back, shelling the entire Protoss army, and that you can leapfrog them, you could just pick them up and land them. Semper is able to do so much damage with that. And with normal bio, it's hard. However, Semper wasn't going normal bio against PiLiPiLi, and PiLiPiLi was not